US President Joe Biden prepares to travel to embattled Israel as the Gaza humanitarian emergency intensifies. Boosting self-defense, Taiwan moves to take weapon production into its own hands.
After a devastating typhoon caused tens of millions of dollars of damage, this small island community is struggling to rebuild their lives.
Plus,
I'm thousands of kilometers away from Taiwan in the South Pacific, so find out why I'm at a market where the only things for sale are Taiwanese vegetables.
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Rik Glauert. US President Joe Biden will visit Israel on Wednesday in a show of solidarity for the country. It comes as diplomatic efforts to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza ramp up. At least 2,800 people have been killed in Gaza and 1,400 are dead in Israel since the October 7th attack on Israel by the Hamas militant group. Rosie Gwinenger has the story.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Israel, paving the way for US President Joe Biden. In a sign of unwavering support from the US, the president will touch down in conflict-riddled Israel on Wednesday to meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The two leaders will work on the release of over 150 people being held hostage by Hamas and make a statement to surrounding nations.
President Biden will underscore our crystal clear message to any actor, state or non-state, trying to take advantage of this crisis to attack Israel. Don't.
This comes as Iran warns it will intervene in the region if Israel continues to strike Gaza. The enclave has been pounded by bombs since forces from Hamas, which rules Gaza, attacked Israel on October 7th, killing 1,400 people in the largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust. With the conflict escalating, the US has sent ships to the region and ordered 2,000 troops to prepare for deployment. Iran, which has supported Palestinians through their long-running conflict with Israel, has responded to the military positioning, saying the US must take responsibility for Israel's actions against Gaza.
حمایت از رژیم صهیونیستی علیه ملت فلسطین و ملت مظلوم فلسطین قرار گرفته. گسیل ناوگان نظامی.
Biden will also discuss aid to Gaza as efforts to solve the humanitarian emergency intensify. Leaders from across the globe are calling for safe passage of food, water and essential medical supplies. And the European Commission announced they will fly resources into the enclave from Egypt.
Right now, Palestinians in Gaza are in need of humanitarian help and aid. They cannot pay the price of Hamas barbarism. The first two flights will start this week.
There is a convoy carrying 1,000 tons of aid sitting just outside Gaza's southern border with Egypt, but Israel is refusing to let that in. Hopes were dashed for a brief ceasefire in southern Gaza, meant to allow aid in and foreign passport holders out from the Rafah crossing with Egypt. Gaza is being battered by heavy airstrikes from Israel. More than 2,800 people are dead and over 1 million Gazans displaced, and they're running out of resources.
No supplies have come into Gaza since the 7th of October. Nothing. No fuel, no food, no water, no other types of assistance. We're talking about 2 million people in the Gaza Strip who do not have water, and water is running out, and water is life, and life is running out of Gaza.
Over 500,000 people in Gaza left their homes after Israel ordered their evacuation to the south. This has doubled the number of people in the already densely populated city of Khan Yunis, which is also running out of food and water. Thousands of Israeli troops and tanks are now surrounding Gaza as their ground offensive looms. Devon Tsai and Rosie Gwinenger for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's largest weapons maker, the Zhongshan Institute, is hoping to build an underground facility that can make missile components by 2026. It comes as the country is looking to focus more on domestic weapon production following delays in deliveries from the US. Jaime Ocon reports.
A show of support from Taiwan's largest partner. U.S. officials and think tank members are reaffirming their promise to help Taiwan boost its defense.
It bears repeating. The U.S. commitment to Taiwan is rock solid, it is principled, and it is bipartisan. We stand with our friends and will continue to do so. And we also welcome your continued commitment, President Tsai, to maintaining the status quo.
The U.S. is Taiwan's largest supplier of weapons and military assistance and provides a whole range of things like fighter jets, tanks, and anti-armor missiles. Taiwan's President Taoyuan has continued to thank the U.S. for its long-standing commitment to Taiwan's security.
我们也要感谢拜登政府高度重视我们的国防需求，持续落实对台军售的常态化，来协助台湾强化自我防卫的能力，共同维护区域的和平稳定。
But despite strong support from the U.S., deliveries of weapons to Taiwan have been delayed in recent years. That comes even as neighboring China steps up its military activity around Taiwan, a country it claims as its own territory. Now Taipei is pushing to bolster its own self-defense capabilities and trying to rely less on Washington for military hardware. One example is Taiwan's own missile program, which authorities believe could be a powerful deterrent to Chinese aggression. Taiwan's largest missile producer, the Zhongshan Institute, says it hopes to build a 4-story underground facility to help produce missile parts by 2026. In recent years, Taiwan has specifically pushed to develop and mass-produce 2 kinds of missiles. The first are surface-to-air, which protect the skies above Taiwan against aircraft and other missiles. And the second are anti-ship, which can take out vessels sailing close to the country. This push for cost-effective, precision-guided weapons is all part of a so-called asymmetric strategy.
台湾在国防的投资上面，其实花很多力气在不对称作战上面，去强化我们在精准弹药上面的投资还有建构。所以从这个角度来说，你去首先第一点在防卫上面，你去增加它的这个固体火箭的生产能力，它是有绝对的必要性的。
But Taiwan's push to improve its domestic defense capabilities is just one part of its overall strategy. And with over $20 billion of American-made arms still on the way, the country remains heavily reliant on Washington for weapons and security. But its focus on domestically made weapons shows that Taiwan understands that its security is ultimately in its own hands. Kamashu and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
Tech giant TSMC has agreed to stop expansion of a plant following protests from local residents. The chipmaker will no longer build its 1nm chip-making fab at a science park in Taoyuan. This comes after protests from residents over this weekend against the park's planned expansion onto private property. The government-commissioned park was expected to cover 150 hectares, 90% of which is privately owned. TSMC says that it respects residents' wishes. The company says it will continue to look for space to develop its new facility.
台积绝对还是有它1奈米的那个建厂选址的替代方案，毕竟整个台湾从北到南其实应该还是可以帮台积找到一些好的一些地点，来未来在试产跟量产它的1奈米。
Typhoon Koinu caused widespread damage when it swept across Taiwan's southeastern Orchid Island. More than a week after the record-breaking winds and waves, the island's people still face an uphill battle to get back to normalcy. Rik Glauert reports.
60-year-old Sinan Vorjing sleeps exposed to the elements, but she does not want to leave here. It's where she grew up on the north coast of Taiwan's outlying Orchid Island. Her house was blown away by Typhoon Koinu, which brought wind speeds of more than 200 kilometers an hour. And as she rebuilds, she's now counting on her relatives and neighbors.
完全是靠自己。你如果说我们需要怎么样的帮忙，当然最需要帮忙的就是帮我们盖一个家，因为我们现在没有能力盖家里。
Vorjing is one of just 5,000 people living on Orchid Island. 60 kilometers off Taiwan's southeast coast, where tropical beaches and coral reefs usually make it a popular tourist destination. Most of the residents here are Tuvalu, a seafaring indigenous group that have become accustomed to the remote island's harsh weather. But when Typhoon Koinu ripped through their island, it brought the highest winds ever recorded in Taiwan, sinking boats, destroying homes and businesses, and bringing down power lines. With the help of Taiwan's military, basic necessities like drinking water, electricity, and phone and internet services have now been restored across most of the island. But it's going to take a lot more work to repair the widespread damage to infrastructure and property. That task is made harder by the people here needing to import everything from Taiwan's main island, a 2-hour boat trip away. As winter approaches, the islanders are struggling to find the materials and manpower they need to weatherproof their homes.
很多人在网络上写说有没有水电师傅，有没有修铝门窗的，有没有铁工业者，就是相关的专业的人员可以进来这个岛上。
Taiwan's government has released emergency funds to compensate people affected by the typhoon, and plans to help reconstruct the island's largest harbour and to move electricity cables underground to improve typhoon resilience. But many people here still feel abandoned.
我们希望县政府能够帮我们传递我们的需求给中央，并且除了帮助我们这个岛屿，帮助我们的族人。
Typhoon Koinu has left its mark all over Orchid Island. Its once green rolling hills are now brown. The fierce winds strip the leaves from the trees, leaving hillsides bare. In the villages that dot the coast, the island's residents do what they can with what's at hand. They know that ultimately it will be left up to them to rebuild their island home. Andy Schuer and Rik Glauert on Orchid Island for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's main opposition party, the Kuomintang, has invited the Taiwan People's Party to discuss a possible joint campaign in a meeting later this week. The KMT and TPP are in talks to join forces against the incumbent Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP. The DPP's candidate, Lai Ching-te, is currently leading in the polls. Over the weekend, representatives for candidates Hou You-yi of the KMT and Ko Wen-je of the TPP met to discuss terms for establishing a joint ticket. The KMT camp said it remained hopeful that the parties could reach a compromise. The front-runner to be Taiwan's next leader, current Vice President Lai Ching-te, has pledged to continue his party's transitional justice efforts. That's if his ruling Democratic Progressive Party wins a legislative majority next year. Transitional justice in Taiwan refers to efforts to seek reconciliation and accountability for injustices carried out during the martial law era. Lai made the promises during a meeting with students in Hsinchu. He also said he would continue the housing policies of current President Taoyuan, promising to build a further 130,000 social housing units.
我是认为用这个方式去推，应该会比蔡英文总统更有利，因为蔡总统都12万户嘛，所以我们未来的8年13万户应该是不会有问题。
The Supreme Court of India has decided against recognizing same-sex marriages in a landmark ruling.
It lies within the domain of Parliament and the state legislatures to enact laws recognizing and regulating queer marriage.
The Chief Justice directed the Indian government to ensure that queer people don't face discrimination. Another senior judge advised that non-heterosexual unions are entitled to protection under the Constitution. The court also ruled that queer and unmarried couples are allowed to adopt children. With a population of over 1.4 billion, India is home to millions of LGBTQ people. India decriminalized gay sex in 2018. But the Indian government and many religious groups in the country say they are against same-sex marriage. The tiny Pacific nation of Tuvalu is on the front lines of climate change. This leads to daily challenges for its people, including how to get enough food. Now, Taiwan is helping feed more mouths. This is our second day of a special series from Tuvalu. Louise Watt reports.
69-year-old Selina Kalisi prepares lunch in her home in Tuvalu. Raw fish is an everyday meal in the tiny South Pacific nation. But less common are the freshly grown vegetables she mixes it with.
Usually buy tomatoes, cucumber. Sometimes we have spring onions. We have English cabbage and Chinese cabbage.
The vegetables are from a special garden a short walk from Khaleesi's house. But the small plot isn't run by Tuvaluans. A team of Taiwanese agricultural experts grows crops here, including radish, pumpkin and papaya, with seeds from Taiwan, more than 7,000 kilometers away. The project is funded by the Taiwanese government, in a country where a quarter of the 11,000 people have diabetes, and almost 3/4 are overweight.
以前他们都只吃饭跟吃鱼啊，还是香肠类的东西、冷冻食品类的东西。所以我们借由这个3个农场生产的蔬菜，提供给当地居民去均衡他们的饮食。
The foreign produce is a welcome boost, as this small, low-lying nation grapples with the effects of climate change. In Tuvalu, not only is land limited and the soil infertile, but rising sea levels mean the soil has salt in it and land is more frequently flooded. So the team in this garden make their own soil, and when they plant the vegetables, they raise them up from the ground. Taiwan runs 3 gardens just like this in Tuvalu, one of its few official allies. Most other countries have diplomatic ties with China, which claims sovereignty over Taiwan and exerts influence to keep it isolated among the international community. Projects like this are seen as Taiwan's way of giving back to its friends. There are more than 30 kinds of fruits and vegetables in these gardens, producing a total of 5 tons of food per month for Tuvaluans.
All the vegetables before were imported. Now you can buy some of them, locally. So it's a bit cheaper now, So it's really helping the food intake for the people of the country.
Vegetables from the Taiwanese gardens are sold at a twice-weekly market in the capital, Funafuti, with some buyers queuing for hours before it opens.
I come to buy this because this helps us stay healthy. Capsicum is the most that I wanted because it makes the taste of the food yummy.
For Tuvaluans, these specially grown vegetables offer not just a balanced diet, but seeds of hope for the next generation, fostering strength as they gear up to face the threats to their country's existence. Klein Wong and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Louise Watt sat down with Taiwan's ambassador to Tuvalu, Andrew Lin, to talk about Taiwan's diplomatic situation.
4 of Taiwan's remaining 13 diplomatic allies are in the Pacific region. How concerned is the Taiwan government about losing these allies?
Over the past 4 decades, we adopt an approach to engage with Tuvaluan. Is that this approach is a friend to all, enemy to none. So at least I think that, of course, we have concern that we are going to, maybe we are going to lose another diplomatic allies, but at least in Tuvalu, because Taiwan's dedication and contribution, I think, is deeply rooted in all Tuvaluans. So we have no enemy here.
China has been attempting to grow its influence in the Pacific region. How successful do you think it's been?
Given the strategic importance of the held by the Pacific Island nations in terms of security, defense, and vast maritime resources, so it's a must for China to penetrate their influence into Pacific, and of course that according to some political analysis, China's aggressive exertion into Pacific poised to potential risk. Why they can undermine the democratic system and good governance, because they are through their elite captures and the high level corruption. And another risk is, I think, is China would like to maybe use its leverage, such as trade, diplomacy, and permanent facility, such as military base in the region, so as to ensure their presence in the region. And not to our surprise, China already show political motivated intention in South Pacific. And currently, I think that most of the South Pacific island nations, they already have some awareness regarding China's aggressive behavior in this region. It will undermine the region peace and stability.
That was Taiwan's ambassador to Tuvalu, Andrew Lin, talking to Louise Watt. And tune in tomorrow for more reporting from Louise about what Taiwanese are doing in Tuvalu. Taiwan is looking to strengthen relations with its remaining 13 allies as China peels them away one by one. It recently lost 2 in the Pacific Islands, but Palau is one of its strongest supporters, Sally Jensen reports.
Sun, sea, and plenty of holidaymakers. The tiny Pacific island of Palau is a popular tourist destination for Taiwanese visitors, with around 8,000 arriving so far in 2023, a 5-fold increase on last year.
Recently, a lot of Taiwanese people come to Palau, and especially after COVID, then Palau government is very friendly to Taiwanese people.
Taiwan is just a 4-hour flight away, and local businesses are happy for the influx of visitors.
Tourism is an industry that's very important to Palau, and so if we do have, everybody are always welcoming, and especially from Taiwan, because Taiwan has been giving us a lot of tourists.
Besides tourists, Taiwan's presence in Palau is evident almost everywhere you look. Taiwan invests heavily in Palau's infrastructure, education programs, and healthcare. It's not only financial investments. Taiwan also sends young people to do substitute military service in Palau's public institutions.
I can share my experience, my skills, and my knowledge with the people here, and they also give me so much positive feedback, and I also learn very much from them.
The 2 countries have been diplomatic allies for almost a quarter of a century. Palau is one of 13 countries that formally recognize Taiwan, which China considers part of its own territory. China has been luring away Taiwan's allies one by one, including most recently Palau's neighbors, the Solomon Islands and Kiribati. But the Taiwanese ambassador to Palau believes the 2 countries' relationship is strong enough to resist Beijing's pull.
Since the diplomatic tie established, Taiwan and Palau has maintained a rock-solid relationship, that we share the same values of democracy, freedoms, and prosperities.
And the alliance has wider importance. Taiwan believes that even the smallest allies can help boost Taiwan's standing in the global community.
Taiwan's presence is important, and that we need our allies to stand up and to speak for us, for an inclusive international arena for Taiwan.
The steady stream of Taiwanese visitors to Palau are a sign of the growing ties between the 2 island nations. But true significance of the relationship lies not in tourism, but Palau's willingness to stick with Taipei over Beijing and back Taiwan in its bid for international recognition. Chris Ma and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's Kinmen Islands are home to endangered Eurasian otters. As Sandy Chi explains, they are threatened by habitat loss and pollution.
Playful, cute, and increasingly endangered. These Eurasian otters live on the Kinmen Islands, Taiwan's closest point to China, and they are facing an uncertain future.
整个中华民国的范围里面，只剩下金门有稳定的族群而已。那其实以前台湾本岛有，可是就是已经灭绝了。
There are less than 200 otters left on Kinmen, while a recent survey done by the Taipei Zoo shows the population grew from 78 in 2020 to 162 in 2022. The number of mature otters dropped, indicating they are dying early or leaving the islands for nearby China. For years, Kinmen was a frontline military outpost. But as relations with China improved, the soldiers moved out. The islands quickly developed. The civilian population has more than doubled in the past 30 years. And with development comes destruction of the otter's habitat. In 2023, Kinmen has recorded 6 dead wild otters, with the latest one found in September.
大概有50几% 都是路杀，就是被 发生车祸，然后被撞死。
That's why Kinmen's roads often have signs warning drivers to slow down and watch for otters. To help prevent accidents, the local government has set up underground pathways so the animals can cross safely, keeping them off dangerous roads.
金沙水库那里有设置一些反光镜的措施，那它的原理就是透过车灯去打到那个反光镜，它会亮。那水獭看到了亮光，它就会停下来一下，它会愣一下，那这时候车就可以过去。
While that can help keep otters safe, it's not enough to address the shrinking population. Otters are at the top of the food chain in wetland ecosystems. That means once the environment is unbalanced by pollution, they're one of the most sensitive and vulnerable species.
金门这几年它的开发越来越多，那有一些就是水塘啊、农塘，它们可能被填掉了，做别的用途，那或者是道路一直开。金门岛本身就不是水太多的，因为一个小岛本来就不是雨水太多的地方，变成说人跟水獭争水的问题。
Despite all the threats the otters face, Kinmen still supports one of East Asia's largest Eurasian otter populations. And if action is taken, their decline can be reversed, ensuring these creatures live on for future generations. Alex Chen and Sanny Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally today, we leave you with images of an ice puppet show in France, expressing the concept of passing through time. I'm Rik Glauert. Take care and see you next time.